So this is usually the reason why I do these lectures at night, is because during the day I've got a very rambunctious little girl who comes in and, you know, does things like hitting me with coat hangers and locking my dog in here. And, you know, my dog is very, very vocal. So he makes it known that he doesn't want to be in my room. So let's go back to William Goebel, though. So we've got the election results in. Taylor has won the election. Well, this immediately causes suspicion under the Goebel team. Goebel will look at these election results and go, wait a second. There are people who are voted here who are dead. There are more people who voted in this county than are actually living in this county at this time. Turns out the election was completely fraudulent. And so he'll call for a recounting of the votes. And it turns out that when you take out those fraudulent votes, he won. He won the election. And so what will happen is Taylor, it's assumed it's Taylor, we don't know for certain that it's Taylor, will shoot Goebel as he's entering the Capitol building, and it'll puncture his lung, break his ribs, and essentially shut down all the digestion and shut down his kidneys, and it'll exit near his spine in his back. So he's taken to the Capitol Hotel, and he's treated by a doctor named E.E. Hume for about 3 days or so. At this point, there's a point where, it's hard to describe, where you've got two political entities who are in control at the same time. So Goebel will officially come into power the day before he dies. He dies 3 days after he's shot. Taylor will call a state of emergency and call in the militia to keep more political violence from happening. We assume that it's Taylor who has done the shooting. We don't know for certain that it's Taylor who's done the shooting, but we know that Taylor will declare the state of an emergency and call in the militia. So as the recount is coming back in and Goebel wins, the militia will be sent away, and Goebel will be sworn in by Chief Justice James Hazelrig, and then by a circuit judge named John C.W. Beckham. And he is listed as the lieutenant governor. So when Goebel dies, Beckham becomes the official governor of Kentucky. So with that, I will leave you with that little bit of rather confusing piece of history. So, you know, this is not an easy piece of history to study. This section of history is incredibly violent, and we're really starting to feel out where we want the Union to be following the Civil War. We've already seen that the Constitution and the way that it was set up during the Revolution didn't quite work, which is why we had a Civil War. The way that states and their rights were dealt with in the North and in the South are completely different. And we're seeing that in the Civil War. It really comes to a head in the Civil War. So when we take these into consideration and we're following the Civil War, we can kind of see how there's still these contentious pieces of the Constitution and politics in these areas, these small areas. There's still a lot of issues. And this time period that we're going into is kind of a transitionary period for us as a country. So we're starting to see the pieces of what we know as America today kind of being felt out and come into being. So yes, it is a very confusing time in history. And yes, I know that it's complicated. Which is why I normally don't like teaching this portion, but there's no way to really teach this portion without going into these heavily political and confusing pieces of history. So I just want to say good luck. Go ahead and start studying now. I know that a lot of you were a little apprehensive about the grades that you guys have gotten on your test. But don't worry, fear not. The way that I've designed this course is so that you could do really poorly on the test and still pass the class and do well in the class. The last time I taught this course, I had several students who got Fs, like 30s, on their first test and ended up coming out of the course with a B. So fear not, you will be fine. I just want to see you guys make improvements and keep doing what you guys are doing on your primary source document analysis. Overall, they're really good and you're finding some really cool stuff. So keep it up. Keep reading your book. Your book will kind of go into a little bit of this political division and will maybe explain it a little bit more clearly. Sometimes it's easier for students to see things in print than it is for me to sit here and try to describe the situation that's going on here. And believe me, I know it's complicated. This is essentially the reason why I do medieval history, is because this time period is so incredibly complicated. Medieval history is so much more simple. So with that, I will leave you guys and say good luck, have a good week, and thank you again for your patience with all this. So have a good day. Bye.